So in today's exciting episode of Connecting Dot, we have Mr. Praveen Roy, who has been the principal of IHM Aurangabad and has more than 30 years of experience in this industry. Let's hear from him. It's going to be an exciting journey on this podcast to know how the future of hospitality is made. Directly from Praveen sir. How are you, sir?
Good, Prashant. Very nice to have had a discussion with you just before when you guys came in, and very happy to be here.
I'm honored,
It's
sir.
going to be a new thing for me, uh, but yes, I would request you to ask as candid questions as you want to.
So
That
I think I just wanted to know what is happening right now in your life. So it's been very long journey, 30 years plus, and what have you achieved through this in this entire journey of 30 years?
so let me tell you, one of the most interesting thing is that never became a stereotypical hotelier.
Okay.
That was my first thought process in life. I didn't want to be seen as only a general manager or only as a CEO. I wanted to contribute finally a lot more than what hotelier should be contributing. And as the luck would say, lot of exciting projects over the last 25 years of my life, and variable projects, different countries, different organizations, government, non-governmental, international, Indian industry. So that has actually provided me a lot of exciting, opportunities. And as you said rightly, at this point of time, I'm doing one such exciting project with the Confederation of Indian Industry and Ecole Hotelier de Lausanne, the EHL, along with the Taj Group of Hotels and ITC as our partners in that.
Great. And you've been in principal of a college where we uh, create future hotelier. What does it take to become a principal of IHM college?
It's a lot of hard work, very
Of
different
course.
from what a hotelier does.
Mhm.
Uh, First of all, you are dealing with 18 years old.
Yeah.
And second is you're dealing with parents who have a lot of expectations out of you. And third is it's a very wide spectrum cultural intermix which happens in this kind of a situation. You're all living together, there will be 600 students, boys and girls at that young age, in a city which is probably not the most aspiring city.
Yeah.
So I guess that is what makes the job more challenging and makes it more exciting, as a matter of fact. So you normally spend a lot of time with the kids and you become a kid yourself. I think that's the most important part of it.
So to become a, is there any specific experience or education which is required when you apply for a principal at IHM, or when you called for becoming a principal?
So normally, if you look at the statutory requirements, you got to have a PhD or a more than 15 years of work experience as per the AICTE regulations. But when I became a principal, neither I had 15 years of work experience, nor did I have had a PhD. But obviously, I was lucky that I had an Indian diploma and a Swiss diploma, along with a master's degree from UK. And having worked in around 6, 7 countries, I think that was the collective experience which I had. And when I became a principal, I was also the general manager of the Taj Hotel. And at that point of time, I just finished my IIM, executive development program. So it became very difficult to take a decision whether I should go on the academic pathway or not. So I was promised that just 2 years, and then you go back to your operations thing. But I said no. I want to be having a dual responsibility. If you agree to that, I will take over the position of principal. So I was the general manager as well as the principal of the college
Wow, at the same time.
at the same time. I mean, and the worst part was the hotel was in one of the worst loss Taj Hotel had made at that point of time.
And which Taj this was?
This was Taj Residency in Aurangabad.
Oh, same. So it was like
Yeah.
same city.
That's how since I was teaching in the college also,
Hmm.
so my predecessor was leaving, so they were needing somebody urgently to take over that position. So that's how by default I went into principalship, though teaching was my passion, but I never realized that I'll become an academic administrator. But I think that was one thing which I excelled and I enjoyed the most, because it gives you a very wide spectrum life. You're not just talking about academics, you're talking about operations, you're talking about handling human relationships, and you're actually also talking about being constantly innovating, because a student gets bored once he goes through the same process
Again and
again and again. So
Yeah.
you got to constantly innovate, bring new systems into place, and I guess that is the most exciting part of academic work, which we
But
do.
this keeps you engrossed because there is
Completely.
Yeah.
There is no type. I remember I used to come to office at 8:30 in the morning and go back at around 1 o'clock in the night. I had not taken a holiday for nearly 11 years, and no Sundays off.
wow.
That is what was the commitment which is required to run an institution,
And you were doing this managing hotel and
managing hotel as well as.
so this was hard work. What was the motivation factor for you? It was the college or it was the hotel?
I guess the biggest motivation factor was working for Taj, because Taj is such a human organization that
Yeah.
you don't feel as if you're working for anybody. It's like your own organization. One. Secondly, I give a lot of credit to my mentor and chairman, Dr. Rafiq Zakaria, who was the chairman of the Maulana Azad Education Trust. And very difficult man. He's no more. God bless his soul. But he used to trust you completely. And I think that is where the excitement came from. And his wife, Mrs. Fatma Zakaria, incidentally, they were parents of two of the most successful Indians. One is Farid Zakaria, who is, Newsweek International famous, and Arshad Zakaria, who was President Merrill Lynch at one point of time. He has his own investment, a private equity investment company. Uh, they were very humble family, and they contributed a lot to create this institution. Their vision was that it should be the best in the world, and when you have that kind of mentors, then you realize that you got to have to work hard to meet their standards.
What they're thinking about you have to work it out and be at that level.
Absolutely.
So I think while you said that you were principal at same time you were doing the general managership for Taj, uh, and you said that you are lucky that wo 15 saal and all of this has not. So is that happening right now as well? That all it is strict right now that you should have 15 years or PhD to become
Yes, it's strict, but if you have actually enrolled yourself for the principalship. Now, what also happens is that people like me who want to work in education then can take up a position as a director
okay.
and have a principal which actually works over there. But technically speaking, yes, those rules and regulations are there. They may be a little softer, but the requirement remains the same.
So there will be rare of the people like you who are there who have become principal not having these.
Yeah, I was
mandate.
probably one of the luckiest one.
Okay, so a question that you teach a lot of students there, and then what does it take for someone who is a student to become a GM of Taj Group of Hotels or probably a hotel, any bigger brand?
Quite a lot of our students have become general managers at very young age. And as I said, to become a general manager, I think one of the biggest virtue that you need to possess is you got to have a lot of patience
Okay.
and a lot of commitment to what you do. And when I say commitment, is not just becoming a champion in, let's say, food and beverage service or front office or culinary. You got to have an overall understanding of
Yeah.
the whole ecosystem. One. Second is Obviously, you need to have some kind of a financial acumen.
Okay.
And I think the most critical aspect is your ability to maintain the human relations. Where at the end of the game, it's just human
Yeah, because
relationships.
it's leadership.
Yeah, it's leadership, it's human relationship, which actually takes you where you should be.
So generally, how much time does it take for, like, I think every student would have this in back of their head that if I start my journey in hotel, it will gonna take 20, 30 years for me to become GM. What do you think this right now is a scenario? How much time does a person will take if he possess all of these things? How much time will a person will take to become
So
a
it
GM?
could take from 7 to 10 years minimum.
Okay.
And it also depends upon what category of hotels you are ready to work. So obviously the metro city hotels, which are very large, require a little different set of skills. But if you look at hotels which are located in mid tier towns, um, yes, there are lots of opportunities, and a student could actually aspire to become a general manager even in 5 to 7 years time if he has that kind of thought process.
Okay. So I'll jump back to your story again. So after Taj, what happened, sir?
So actually, before Taj, lot had happened, which I would like to bring us little capsule of context. You know, starting off working with Oberoi's gave me the foundation which every hotelier dreams about, which is excellence. Working a little bit of with ITC for 1 year gave me a lot of perspective into this is at the very young age. How the customer centricity is a very critical issue. While then working in international environment, I worked in Japan, I worked in Switzerland, I worked in
GCCs.
Baghdad. There it's your ability to handle lots of nationalities together. Imagine in Baghdad in those days there were 38 nationalities working in the Oberoi's. Switzerland, it's natural for a large number of nationalities to work there. So when you work with people who do not belong to the similar culture, don't speak the same language, but serve the same customer, is something that is what actually makes it a little different from everybody. So I give a lot of my initial foundation thought process to being able to work with different kind of
Nationality.
people
Yeah.
and different social background, different financial background, different country background. So that actually makes you very versatile.
Of course. Yeah.
That's the beginning of it. But as I said, Taj definitely makes you a strong, strong administrator. Because one thing good about Taj was that it gives you a lot of ownership and lots of leeway to manage a property.
And I think this is same for Oberoi as well.
I did not actually work in senior position in Oberoi, but yes, Oberoi obviously is very very good in systems.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs came out of
Oh,
Oberoi.
lots of entrepreneurs. You can name probably every entrepreneur in India is from Oberoi.
Yeah, I think one that I know who taught me, Mr. Surup, and I think second we have seeing you. You have done your business as well. It's a small.
I did a lot of. In fact, I got funded for $10 million,
Wow.
and to
And what
start
was
my
what was that business?
that was education business. It's known as UEI Global,
Okay.
and I ran that business for 3.5 years, but I think I failed miserably, and it was a big learning experience for me. I still enjoy because what I have learned is how to deal with the private equity investors, which is where
The game
the
is.
exciting part of the game is today's world.
Yeah.
But yes, having said that, it was a great experience because setting up 21 similar McDonald's kind of outlets, which are education outlets in so many different cities, and in 1.5 years' time, creating trainers, 300 plus trainers across the country, getting the curriculum developed by one of the best in the world, which is Hotel School Den Hagen, which is from Netherlands, and then basically ensuring that culture of education gets, spread out in 21 centers was very exciting and very challenging. And I think we were the first one in India to set up vocational institutions of that category, large numbers, very, very, stylish institutions. It's like a mini catering college in 6,000 square feet. So that was the whole concept. Uh, the company did very well probably after I left. So I don't give credit to me. But yes, learning a lot. But post that, I think the most exciting part was I don't know whether you are aware that I ventured into opening up my own restaurant business.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And pretty successful at that. I used to this was my dream, but unfortunately we had to close down because that whole area where we were set up, there were a lot of metro construction work happening, flyover construction. So we had to stop it for 6 months. And that was the time when I got offered to become the CEO of the Sector Skill Council. First time the ministry was setting up these sectorial centers of excellences. Give me an opportunity to work with Mr. Vikram Roy, who was my chairman with everybody else. Every hotelier worth his salt was on our board. So working with that group of 24 big guys of the industry and creating a vast organization pan India was very exciting, completely funded by government. So obviously you have to be very careful that you're not badly spending government money. So it was a good project. I enjoyed it and I did really well in that project. I think we were one of the best sector skill councils in India. And gave a lot of international exposure. Not only international exposure, but it did give a lot of exposure into the industry because we were dealing not just with hotels, we were dealing with boutique hotels, we were dealing with restaurants in a large number, we were dealing with facilities management companies, with timeshare, with these home kind of a thing where you made bed and breakfast as your
B&Bs.
B&Bs types. So it was a very variable. Ritesh Oyo was involved in this. So all these people were there, and there was at least once in a quarter they would sit together, and we would work quite a lot towards how we can make this industry a much wonderful place to be in. That it's called Tourism and Hospitality Sector Skill Council. It is still doing a phenomenal job pan India. But I got disassociated as I got called back by CII to manage other advisory roles in CII.
So you were GM, you were the principal, and then you got as an advisory board member. Now I want to understand what does it take to become someone at top position from coming from a GM profile, because this doesn't happen to a lot of GMs.
So Prashant, to be very frank, it doesn't happen because people don't want to. You see, I cannot be in a similar position for a very long period of time. I get petrified if I have to do the same work for a few years together. I did general managership, I did principalship. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I gave my 200%. But at the same time, I wanted to then take myself forward and do something bigger. And I think that zeal to do something bigger, something more exciting, is what made me move a lot. And to a large extent, my family is always worried. What is the next one now? So it is, it's difficult, but I enjoy doing it. I enjoyed creating new ventures. That's my really.
Are you tired now, or you still want to?
Still not tired. I still want to do something bigger. I'm planning to do something different.
Okay.
Because I think it's not just the age, it's the accumulated knowledge and experience which is actually telling me to not sit down and slow down. Though I did slow down last 4-5 months, but then came back again, and I'm setting up this venture. It's quite exciting venture. It's actually, I can call it, it's my baby.
Of course, every business is your baby. That's how you grow it.
Yeah.
So one thing that when I've talked to you, I've realized that you have traveled a lot of places, to Japan, to GCC, to Baghdad, to every place. Does traveling and seeing all of this helps a person to grow, or it's gonna be one part of experience only?
So traveling, yes, definitely gives you a lot of different experiences. But more important than traveling is you got to consistently put yourself in a situation to learn.
Mm.
You know, we get, I mean, everybody says this, and I'm also repeating it because you keep learning all your life.
Of course.
But the question is, do you realize that you are learning, and do you realize that you are actually putting your potential into practice? It's very, very critical. So I'll give you an example. My son is a pilot,
Oh, great.
and he flies, but obviously I keep telling him that's not it. You got to look at somewhere down the line, because everybody becomes a pilot and then everybody flies, and they keep flying for 30 years of their life, but
Yeah.
that's not the fun. The fun is actually, are you opening your own airlines someday?
Oh.
Is that what is your vision? Or are you going to become a management pilot, or are you going to become a CEO of an airline? Is that the vision? Then it's fine. But just become flying aircraft, then you'll be just another 10,000 people in the world. So that's what my message to anybody is that keep your targets changing. You can't just keep shooting at the same point all the time. You may be able to do that I mean, there are so many of my batchmates, my friends who are now in those comfortable position of GMs, senior vice presidents, etc. And I feel jealous because yes, they have a very comfortable lifestyle.
Yeah.
But if you may ask me, I will never like to do
That job.
that job. That's not me. I can't sit on that chair for a very long time.
That sounds like me, I think, right now. So yeah, I think I've understood this carefully, that it's about you shooting high. So what does it goes in IHM? So first, I want to understand, and this for every student who is going for hospitality as industry to choose career. What is IHM?
So when IHMs was set, at somewhere around 1964 or 66,
Does it started privately?
it started with the National Council.
Okay.
It wasn't a national council, but yes, it was part of the Ministry of Tourism. And when it started off, the idea was to create these center of excellence where you can, you know, develop technocrat who can be great chefs, who can be great bartenders, who can be great managers.
Scale based things.
Skill based, yeah. So if you look at the curriculum of IHM, it's all the 3 years. The skill component is very evenly mixed.
Yeah.
But the worst part is that it has stayed there for a longer period of time. It has never evolved.
Yes.
And I say that openly, quoting, unquoting, that is the biggest mistake we do. We got, if you look at how, polytechnics in
Yeah.
UK or even in vocational education in many other cities across the globe has changed dramatically. Now, one thing is very clear: either do you become a craftsman or you become a manager.
Yeah.
You cannot have a mixed approach, which we used to have, let's say, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why the IHMs was actually set up was to create these high quality technocrats who would become experts in the area.
Okay.
And that's what they did, a phenomenal job. You all have products of these
IHMs,
IHMs,
yeah.
and they have done a great job uh, today. But the nature of, for example, institutions like IHM Aurangabad, where I was the principal, or ISH or Manipal, they have evolved.
Yeah.
They have gone to a different level. So obviously, they are preferred institutions. But the IHMs, which are the National Council IHMs, or which are the government-run institutions, they need to, change the way they operate.
So there are two kind of IHM. One is government run, another one is.
Others, private institutions.
So they are both IHMs.
Yeah, and there are third ones.
Okay.
Third categories are the graduate programs which are run by universities.
Okay.
Like Osmania University runs its own bachelor's
So
program.
from private IHM to government IHM, the syllabus curriculum are different.
The private ones, they have evolved. They have mixed a lot of essential component in the curriculum. But the IHMs have still a similar kind of a curriculum at the moment.
So as a student, if I am trying to apply for IHM and the choice that they give that where you want to go, so generally student do their choice because of the cities.
So it happens differently. The National Council has got 64 odd institutions currently under it. Some of them are directly run by National Council, and some of them are private players who have taken affiliation of National Council. Now, those institutions have a centralized, academic control bureau, which works out of the National Council office in Noida.
Okay.
While private institutions have their own admission procedures, so they don't fall under the admission categories of the National Council. So, if a student wants to apply, let's say to Manipal, he will have to give its entrance exam over there.
Separate.
If they want to apply to ISH, then they have to do their own entrance exam. Similarly, if they want to apply to Aurangabad, then there is a different admission process.
So it doesn't come like for the entirely IHM if you have to apply for Aurangabad.
There is no such JE kind of a.
So IHM Aurangabad is different. It's privately
It's different,
owned.
yeah.
So yeah, that's the reason we have seen a lot of people coming from IHM Aurangabad who are on top position in Taj. So
Not only Taj, Touchwood. I'm not, because I was heading that, but IHM Aurangabad students have done phenomenally well. They are managing directors of very large companies across the globe. They have set up their own entrepreneurship in a very short period of time. 7 years, 10 years time, they are extremely successful. So I think we must be doing something different.
Yeah, of course.
Which
you have a high success rate.
Yeah, high success rate. Yeah.
So do you think that all other IHM should learn what Aurangabad is?
We tried contributing, but you see what happens is, it's very difficult in India to convince government or to convince the old institutions that they need to change differently. You see, it has to be a think tank. It cannot be Praveen Roy telling anybody, or it cannot be you telling anybody.
Yeah.
It got to be a think tank, and that think tank should work in cohesive manner.
But I think, sir, Indian education system whole entirely is very old now. There is no much changes. If you talk about NCRT to CBSE to ICSC, and we talk about IHM as well, it's the same place altogether. We are not changing it.
We are not changing at all. I don't know, but there's a big opportunity today with NEP coming in a big way. If NEP is not taken seriously, then we are shooting ourselves in the foot.
Because see, as you told that you reach out to Doha, Qatar, Bahrain, Japan, there is multiple nationality working in a hotel, and it is fun because I was doing a podcast with one of my friend who was here in India working with me. Now he's with Banyan Tree, and this podcast he said that I have got 56 nationality Prashant working in this hotel, and it's lovely to understand their culture, to talk to them, to know how they work, and there's this different view altogether for the world.
Yeah.
But when it comes to India, we have less expats working here. I think, yeah, we are a bigger workforce and it is getting utilized within India. It is good. But don't you think that we should be the leader and we should be the one who is teaching the world that hospitality what it is? Like you said, IHM did a very good job, and we all are a product of IHM.
Yeah.
If we make it better, we can teach the entire world about hospitality and let them come and work with us because we are growing right now.
So Prashant, I think efforts are being made. I have heard, I don't know whether I'm right or wrong, but I've heard that the National Council is looking to set up an institution in Dubai or UAE. They are in some advanced talks. Excellent idea, but you got to be very careful. You have to make sure there's a lot of thought goes into creating. See, what is Indian hospitality? Indian hospitality has got its mix of culture, tradition, and hard work. Maybe in many other countries, hard work and culture and tradition may not be so easily acceptable.
Correct.
So what do we do about it? We can't go and teach people tradition and culture in a country where it's not being such a big thing.
Yeah, like Europe.
Yeah. So, but currently the opportunity in UAE is phenomenal. They are also equally traditional, also equally culture oriented, and we can actually use our skills to make them understand Indian hospitality, because I don't think there is any hospitality service which is comparable to Indian service.
Yes, that's
We are
my view too.
naturally customer centric.
Yes.
We can sell anything to anybody.
बचपन से सिखाया जाता है गेस्ट आता है घर पे भी मेहमान आते हैं we do that and that's in our genes and blood.
Yeah.
We can't just get. So you are in advisory board of EHL as well.
No, not in advisory board. I was actually associate director with EHL.
So EHL, so I think I was discussing this before with you. People don't know much about it, and I think the younger generation who is going in, they only see IHM as an option. How can this help the younger generation to look at other aspects?
So interestingly, EHL, which is École Hotelier de Lausanne, is a hospitality university, and they have bachelor level programs and they have vocational programs, besides many other programs. But the important thing to note is that it's 130 years old.
Yeah.
It's one of the oldest, hospitality education in the world. Very vastly recognized as the best in the world because it's rated as number one in the world, at least for last 3 years consistently. Very large campus, very well-defined campus. It's a great place to be. But as you rightly said, in India, we still do not have a EHL institution. But I believe very soon you will have a very large EHL institution in India. But what people can do is, we are running this vocational program, which is a very specialized program. So the Confederation of Indian Industry, which is CII, in association with EHL, has got this 18-month VET by EHL diploma.
So this is 18-month diploma.
18-month diploma, vocational education and training, VET by EHL.
Okay.
It's currently being run in 12 countries, including Saudi Arabia in a big way. And we in India, actually the three of the biggest partners have come together. The Taj, ITC are the two partners which are running separate program with CII and EHL as the base partners.
Okay.
So CII runs these programs on behalf of EHL as well as ITC, on behalf of EHL as well as Taj.
And there is no government intervention helping them.
There is no government intervention. But it's completely run by the industry.
I think I remember this. I was at a revenue strategy meet in Dubai from Hyatt. They fly everyone once a year. And there was a mentor or a coach who came in from EHL and gave us advice about how demography, environment, and the local laws impact hospitality in different countries. And this was a very eye-opening session for everyone. While we do budget, we only look at our own hotel data, what is happening, and probably a city data. We don't understand what international market is doing, how much influx of the business will come in. And these all things was coming from somewhere that has more stat-driven knowledge giving to. So I was thinking that how EHL student will be different from IHM students. So what is the difference? So if there is an EHL student who is from Singapore studying the campus and someone who came from even IHM Aurangabad?
Very different, very different. Because the way the teaching is done in EHL is actually class apart. There's a lot of focus on learning. There is very less focus on teaching. So we make the students learn. That's the principle behind it.
Can you add an example to this?
So for example, if you want to teach them how to, let's say very basic thing, what are different types of wines? So you don't need to take them in a classroom and teach them what are the different types of wine.
Okay.
You actually have a wine lab where they actually sit, open the wines, taste the wines, experience the wine, and learn. So it's a lot of, and then they do an assignment or some work on that. I'm not very much aware of the detail, but there is a lot of low impetus on classroom teaching in these international colleges nowadays. It's more tutorials, more group work, more
practical.
Yeah. So it's a lot of research. While traditionally in our colleges, we still have classroom interactions, more focus. Classroom interactions cannot go away completely,
Yes.
but yes, there is more focus on you know teaching in a classroom.
With this, do you think that India as an entire entity, government should look at these kind of institute and do some kind of partnership to bring in these,
I think so. I think it's very important to government to have a look at it. This.
and how we can fix this?
So government did look at it because a lot of our ex-principals of national councils have done a program with EHL, and they have gone and got exposed. Very excited, very impressed. But my question is, that's not the end of it. Until unless the mindset needs to change.
And how many years do you think this will take?
First of all, you need leadership.
Hmm.
You need to have leadership which is completely aligned to this. And I guess that is missing.
So I think we are lot more dependent on making this country develop without looking at education system.
Yeah, and especially tourism. Tourism is, it's a big focus of the government and it actually gives us a lot of revenue. But it's a very old, thing which I remember when I was in a classroom in London, in UK, doing my masters. So we had a professor called Tom Baum, and he had written a book on sustainable HR practices for the hospitality industry, tourism industry. And one of the most critical thing was migration of labor.
Okay.
And I remember in that context, he talking about how tourist moves from periphery to core, while the labor also comes from different periphery to this core. And he used to give example that how Mexicans and the Chinese were migrants who worked in US. Similarly, in Eastern Europeans in Europe. And over the period of time, this nature of the workforce consistently changes, and because of which the training has to change, the content, the syllabuses needs to be changed so that it meets the requirement of that particular labor which is now working in the industry.
Correct. So like Singapore has a lot of Chinese people.
Singapore has a lot of Chinese, and now they're looking for Indians.
Yeah.
So
So they have Malay, they have Chinese. These are the high population there.
yes,
So now they want Indians to go in. So they need to be in different training
they
program.
have to have a very Indians either need to get trained differently to be able to work in Singapore. I would say that way,
Yeah.
so that it facilitates easy employment.
But this is a big web. I think the sooner government thinks about it, this will help us.
So not only government, what industry has started thinking about it is differently. They want to take things in their own hand also, and that is where this whole the ITC and Taj collaboration with CII.
I'm
has
very happy
taken
that they
place.
did.
Yeah, it's a fantastic. It's a very brave step, because for an industry to be able to take the onus of training people, and which ITC was the first one to take with us, and then also Taj, I think that will set a precedence where some kind of a responsibility is being shared by the industry. So you can't keep saying government has to do it, government has to do it.
Yeah.
A lot of, I think, this kind of small steps are going to make a big difference.
Yeah, like what Geo did for the telecom.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I
Great
think
example.
I think it's good that Oberoi, Taj, and these brands are doing. And I think for me, one news or threat to the entire Indian hospital that I was discussing with you earlier, that Marriott is set to open 250 hotels. So I gave this as an example to someone that I was working in a Marriott hotel. The GM was Indian, we were Indian. The people who coming in or staying in our hotel were Indian. The food was prepared as per the local thing, but we are paying money to an international company.
Yeah.
What if there was an Oberoi board? What if there was a Taj board? And I think that we don't have much of brands in India that can take over the hotel. Otherwise, owners in India are ready to give their hotel to these brands, and they are doing phenomenally good. We have a lot of entrepreneurs coming out from Oberoi. We have a lot of people coming from Taj. They are the best of the best hotel in the world, and they are highly demandable in outside the country as well.
Yeah.
So do you think that they are right now sensing this, that they have to enhance their presence in India, or is it going to be a very laid back attitude again?
So it's a natural process. one thing is that wherever the business moves, whichever country is, doing large amount of business transactions, obviously hotel industry needs to develop in those areas
Yeah.
because it's a support function. Now India has been very slow because
Mm.
it was a capital intensive industry, because if you
Correct.
want to build a hotel, the cost of building the hotel, the cost of land was going up consistently. So it became as a negative factor because none of the hotel owners, hotel brands wanted to then put money into
Building up hotel.
building assets.
Yeah.
The great part was that the real estate business in India was actually booming,
Moving.
and it went down for some time. That's when the real estate people thought, why not give this create properties for the
Hotels.
hotels. And when that amalgamation took place, when the real estate builders were building great properties and Indian brands were the easiest to come and manage them. So if you look at today, ITC, Taj, both are expanding at a very fast pace.
Mm.
If I'm not wrong, I think Taj will have 187 hotels
Yeah.
very soon, or maybe more at this point of time. And so will, I think ITC will have more than 140 odd hotels already in place. So this is a massive explosion which is taking place. The question is, where will you get the people?
Yeah. That is the biggest problem right now.
Yeah. You can create a great product, and where we are going to get the people to manage the product is going to be. I'm not talking about the entry level workforce. Entry level workforce is manageable according to me.
Okay.
No big problem.
Got it.
I can train, deploy even in my own property.
But this is different what I'm listening from you versus what I have listened from all the other people I've done a podcast.
Yeah, because we deal with these brands who have been consistently over the last 30, 40 years working on entry level workforce training.
Okay.
So our hotel industry in India, whether it's Oberoi's or Taj or ITC or Sarovar, you name it, we have a very training focused approach. So we were lucky that we don't feel that pain, though attrition rate is very high in our industry in India. But what will happen is that a lot of the new brands, they will have to start focus, and for them training might not be where they would like to place the dollar, because it's always non-productive,
Of course.
thought as non-productive. But I personally feel a lot of, what we are doing is student paid program. So these students which we train, they actually pay the fees, and it's not cheap, it's expensive because they're getting EHL diploma.
Yeah.
So that is where I think these kind of innovative practices will bring. Let's say if you're opening a new brand and if you have a tie-up in education, so the student pays to study in your brand.
Oh, okay.
And that's where it will change the whole concept. He may not be paying the brand, but he may be paying the
The institution.
the institution which is running that program in your.
So is it happening really right now that students are in the hotel studying?
Yes, in ITC hotels and in Taj, the student spends 18 months inside the hotel in ITC hotels.
And what is the strength of them? What is the
So currently we have around 400 plus students who are studying in various ITC hotels.
So these are students studying in the hotel and they will get the job and that's in that
Yeah.
same brand.
So the ITC will always have the first right to
Yeah.
choose, and otherwise CI takes the responsibility of placing all the students.
Oh, great! I think this initiative. We are planning to expand this initiative
Yeah.
for all the smaller brand as well.
See, currently we are on 6 ITC hotels and around 4 Taj hotels. We are going to be in at least 20 hotels by next year.
And what about other brand? Are you planning to do with other brand?
We are a little careful of mixing too many brands because it's aspirations of the students which needs to be keep in mind.
Yeah.
But obviously, as and when the opportunity comes in, see, also one has to have ownership from the hotel company. If these are all non-ownership,
Yeah.
the hotels, for example, you are a brand and you are managing assets,
Correct.
then there is always a little dysfunction of who's going to take the decision of
Yeah.
whether to allow this to happen or
Or
not.
the owner, the management company,
Yes.
all of this.
With ITC and Taj and Oberoi's, it becomes easy because they have a board which
Yeah.
takes the decision on this. I don't know about other chains, but yes, We will, as we grow further, as we become more popular, because I think this is what is the future.
Yeah, I think, and I want to know this again. So, like EHL is here in India, and you are doing great stuff. Do you think there will be other players who are going to come in India for the
Other
hospitality?
players will always follow EHL. That's the tradition.
Yeah,
And I'm sure they will be following EHL very soon.
good. And uh, to on this, I would like to have a question which is going to solve my problem as well. So, imagine that there is a company who is going to start into a management or taking a new hotel company because the demand is high and a lot of people would like to come into this industry. How do you solve the problem of manpower here when there is you are an emerging brand? Because when you go into college, the aspiration is that I want to join Taj, Oberoi, all of these bigger brands. No one is ready to come to a smaller brand. So I want to understand how this is going to work out in future, because again you said there's less of manpower already in this industry. Lemon Tree was lucky that at the time that when they started, there was influx of a lot of people to join hospitality and they continued growing it. I think now it is becoming difficult if anyone want to enter this industry, or there are solutions.
No, it's not difficult. As I said, the new brands which are now coming in, obviously they will also depend upon what kind of a salaries they pay, and more than salaries, what kind of a position. See, again, brands have to be innovative in what they offer to the as a career to the students.
Hmm.
If you are going to keep doing the same thing what others are doing, then you have to compete at price. But if you're going to do something which is going to be innovative, maybe much more enriched position for them, then you're not competing at price. You're not competing at all.
Yeah, that's an opportunities
Yeah.
game.
So you got to come into the vision of the student that yes, they are going to provide a lot of excitement in in their growth and development.
So to understand this, you've been a principal. So what is the mindset change that has happened from while you were principal at that generation of student versus now current generation of students?
So my daughter is an hospitality student, so I can tell you very frankly. One thing is the students today are looking at a challenge.
Hmm.
And first 3 years, you will never be able to hold them for a longer period of time because they experiment.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely all right for us to allow them to experiment. Uh, so, if you are looking at going into the campuses and interviewing people, I think that will continue and that should continue because there are a lot of people who want to make up a career in purely hospitality.
Hmm.
There are lots of people who start with hospitality and jump into allied industries and then maybe non-allied to a very different industries.
Yeah.
They may or may not come back, but they will not come back at traditional roles. They will come back at innovative roles. So, for example, today your marketing a hotel has become a very challenging and
Yeah.
a very, very different kind of a job. So, you don't just need a good F&B person or a good front office person to market your property.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to have that kind of a background. What that person needs to have a different set of skills. So if you provide those students who are in IHMs these different skills, they will love to come and work for you.
And what are the avenues right now do you think that's open for any student who is into hotel management? So one is hotel, and what are the other avenues that they can go and to venture out?
So a lot of students were at some point of time, if you remember, joining aviation.
Yeah.
Today, it's not just aviation; it could be hospitals, it could be airlines, different segment than
Hmm.
flying. It could be, banking. A lot of people are moving into banking. Real estate is obviously a big killer for us because it takes a lot of our people,
Yeah.
and they do very well in that area. So, multiple financial services that is attracting. Surprised to know marketing and advertising,
Yeah.
very big pull for hospitality students because I think they have a natural flair in that.
Yes. They are born with internet.
Yeah. So their demand is going very high. I think this is the right time to do a hospitality program and experiment. If you love hospitality, work there. If you don't love hospitality, there's so much for you.
I think one thing that I will agree, and this was through general manager podcast that came in, and they said that it's not about Prashant that you are getting hotel ready. Hospitality as a study gives you a personality that can be used by a lot of businesses. And now, if you go out and do engineering, you might not know how to greet someone, but if you're doing an hospitality, you know how to talk to someone. So real estate will pick you up, hotels will pick you up, hospitals,
Yeah.
malls, and there is a lot many
I'll tell you a very
unconditioned there.
example, a very different example. We had a student, lady student, who after graduating from IHM Aurangabad went into army,
Okay.
commissioned herself, became a captain, did a 5 year short service commission, came back as director HR for the Marriott after doing her MBA,
Okay.
and went into Qatar at a very senior position in
Airlines, Qatar Airlines.
airlines. Came back now as a regional head of Marriott HR.
I was about to ask you one example of one of your students. She was your student?
She was my student. Yeah.
Wow.
So very proud of her. And it's all happened in last 10, 12 years after she left army.
So I think opportunities are great already for hospitality people.
Phenomenal. I always say that which is the industry which will pay you the way the chefs get paid
Yeah.
with just 5 to 7 years of experience and 12th pass. What more do
Yeah.
you want? This is the best place to work.
And I will top it up with this is the industry where you don't require physics, chemistry, math, science to be, or you need not to be a very brilliant as a student in academics, but this will provide you a personality that will allow you to do job at any industry.
Absolutely. Actually, the good part is, Prashant, if you see these kids working on the floor, you realize they got so much of talent.
Yeah.
And it is only us who have not groomed them. We are to be blamed, nobody else. If we groom them, if we pay attention to their requirements, those guys are champions, they run the hotels.
Yeah.
I was yesterday in one of my students' hotel having dinner in Bhopal. It's around 30 years old hotel. I don't think any of the staff has been less than for 10 years or 5 years in that property because they know how to keep the people. They're so happy. They're so proud to be there.
They became like one family. And
Yeah, the father of that hotel they got 4 hotels in Bhopal, and it's amazing to see the enthusiasm. And the hotel was full. Small property, was doing very well in F&B, and yeah, I mean, I could see happiness and the pride on the face of the staff. They may not have been beautifully dressed or whatever, but at the end of the day, they were very happy and they loved the job.
I think I used to remember when I was kid, there were only two options was there: either you become doctor or engineer. I still understand doctor is a mastery thing that you have to put your hard work. But engineering, I think when it comes to computer engineering, to civil and a lot of things, education has reformed in this way because of the internet. Now, 6, 7 year old can know how to do a coding in computers. But when it comes to hospitality, there is still a lot of academic is required for them to teach, and because this is mannerism, this is
Yeah.
personality trait, so colleges are the essential part, and you said it right. We all have to work towards it to make sure that future generation has right set of education in hospitality.
Absolutely, it's actually such a phenomenal industry. I always say that which is the industry which allows you to have fun while you are working,
That's hospitality.
and this is hospitality.
So one last question, sir, and we'll end this podcast with that question, and that is that I want you to address the student, the future one who is going to come out, because you've been a principal. I want a statement to come out from you that why someone should choose hospitality now and what is good for them, for any Gen Z and coming future generation for hospitality.
So I think one of the biggest message to the student is it's first thing it's one of the growing industry, growing at a very rapid pace. It will provide you immense opportunities not only in India but anywhere in the world. We are being accepted as global citizens when it comes to hospitality industry. Not only culinary, but even look at food and beverage services, revenue management, marketing. These are the new, areas where students can actually try it out. And why they should join is, I would say, it gives you excitement, it gives you fun, it gives you a career.
Okay, yeah.
And at the end of the day, it gives you lots of money if you know how to make it. Serious, honest, trustworthy hoteliers make a lot of money, I can tell you that.
Thank you, Prince, sir. It was so fun having a conversation with you, and I think this is a lot of insight for future student to come. And I will suggest and I will advise anyone who will come to me that this industry has lot many things to offer. And like you said, the institutions are great already. So EHL is there, IHM is there. Go out, guys. Get into this industry. It is booming right now.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you,
so
sir.
much.
You are watching biggest hospitality podcast by a hotelier. Stay tuned. Follow us for more.